maybe it's not that bad. My advice is, honey, just go ahead and do your research, because I can honestly tell you, being single sucks. Okay, in my opinion, sometimes it sucks, but being married to the wrong person is a type of hell no one should have to go through. You should not have to be married to someone that does not like you. You should not have to be married to someone that doesn't even love you. And I know what that is like. I know what it's like to be told, hey babe, I love you. And yet, I swear, I think that man sat back in the recliner with his WWE Championship Roman Reigns belt and laughed his ass off at me every day. Like, damn.
Welcome back to As I Am with Ray Ned Lee. I am your host, Ray Ned Lee. Happy Thursday, beautiful people. I hope today has been blessed. Today we are going to start with part 2 of my marriage and divorce story. A cautionary tale of waiting on God for your promise when it comes to marriage and relationship. I'm going to just go right in because, oh my gosh, this story is going to take forever. But it was a 3.5 story. So, of course, it's going to be kind of long. So, anyway, so like I was saying, the whole year we were long distance. I went down there, visited him once. I didn't visit him again. And so probably the next month after November, when I visited him for Thanksgiving, he came back up to our hometown for Christmas and everything like that. So we spent Christmas and all of that together. The only thing that was really bothering me the most about the time we spent apart was the fact that I was trying to move down there before June. Actually, I think it was June or July, whichever one it was. I was trying to move down there in May. So we're in December now, and it was getting frustrating because he couldn't find another job after losing both the jobs that he had previously. And so he was staying with family, and he was complaining about that family. And I was like, I'm not going to move myself down there. And to make a long story short, what really had me hesitant on moving down there was because I had just came out of a situation where my living situation was unstable, and I was living with a family member at that time who I considered a best friend, but we had fell out. So I didn't want to, and at the same time before we fell out, I lost my job. And so it was a really good job. I'm talking, I was making over 50 plus in less than a year, like 50,000 in less than a year. So that job was like, probably, I would say I was going to be making anywhere between 60 plus thousand in a year. And that's how was I again? I'm like 23 making that kind of money. So I'm like thinking I'm doing well, but I self-sabotage that. But anyway, and so that is what made me very hesitant, because I'm like, I'm not going to leave a situation, right? Because then I had to stay with my family too. And a year after that happens and we get together, and it's feeling like my living situation will be unstable again. So I was like, I don't think I'm going to move down to where you're at. And I'm like, I still do want to get married, but I don't know if I really want to move down there. But I didn't want to pressure him to move back either. So in reality, I was like, I'm not even sure we're going to get married now, because the situation was shaky. But as a couple months go by, we actually decided we were going to move back, and he was going to move back because he wasn't finding a job. And also, I was getting frustrated with the way he was looking for apartments down there. I really didn't feel like he was making any type of leeway on looking for a place for us to stay, because you're complaining about your living situation with your family. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm living with you and your people and they're unwelcoming, you know? And I don't know. I just knew that my intuition was telling me no on that for sure. So we decided to move back down here. What else? Where am I going to go with this? And also, I really was contemplating on canceling the wedding, going back and forth between I don't want to, but I do, you know what I mean? And what really had me not wanting to cancel the wedding was my desperation to be married. The desperation to have my life partner, because I felt like all of my relationships before that was just so unstable, and I felt like marriage would make it stable, make it make sense. But that's a 23-year-old mindset for you. Well, at this time I was 24 going on 25. Well, when I got engaged, I was 24, 3 months for 25. So at this time I was 25, but the 25-year-old mindset, I was just becoming more mature, honestly. But anyway, so we decided we're gonna move back, right? And the months, the wedding is coming up. So he moved here in probably March, right? After he went back there and stayed for like a month, moved back here in March. On his way back, his car breaks down. So now he's jobless, carless, and our wedding is in like a couple months, right? I just become worried. I mean, I was so worried that my eating patterns were like horrible. I was losing weight and everything. And for someone else who wants to lose weight, that sounds great. But for me, I was already skinny. So I'm like, to me, I look sickly. I don't care. Like, you know how you like what you know what you want to look like. I was not looking how I wanted to look. It was stressing me out. And it was messing with my health. Like, and I could tell. And my anxiety was terrible. You know, and I remember also that several people were recommending him jobs. However, he would get upset by them recommending jobs, saying that he basically, he doesn't want to work at jobs where he'll like blow his back out. He said he already had back problems, and he didn't want to work at any warehouse jobs because, I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know if he used these exact words, but for me, I heard he's too good for those jobs. And as a person who's already working like a 9-to-5 kind of situation, I'm like, well, what do you really want then? You know what I mean? Like, and he was always trying to get his rapping career off the ground. And as I tell this story, know that I know I'm going to sound foolish. I know I am, because I know I was foolish. Because like, how many women in the Black community have held a dude down while they tried to do their rapping career? And it's fine to do that, but at the same time, as a man, you have to realize that you might have to be multifaceted in carrying a 9-to-5 and trying to do that. Because I mean, women are doing it. Like, they, like, if we have children, a lot of times the main priority, the children are the woman's main priority. And a lot of times we're holding a job too. So you could do both. Like, you have to. If you want your dream job to be something, you might have to carry both with you, you know? And so anyways, he was just too good to do these jobs that people was recommending him. And he was getting upset by them even recommending them to him. And I just was not feeling his way of thinking, you know, and I just was not. And I guess it was not enough for me at this point to cancel the wedding. So I kept going. As we began to get closer to the wedding, I noticed that I didn't feel like he was really actively looking like that. I just didn't. I didn't feel like he was really looking as much as for me and my comfort, he wasn't. So fast forward probably a month before the wedding, I want to say, I had wrote him a letter to break up with him. Actually, no. This was actually probably prior. I don't really know my time periods, but during this time when I'm like having doubts, I wrote him a letter to kind of break up with him, and I chickened out to give it to him, had it in my pocket. Well, it fell out of my pocket onto his couch. He finds it and reads it. Hindsight being 2020, that was actually a violation of my boundaries. And so he gets upset with me about this letter. His way of expressing sadness, I don't know if I really don't know if he's sad, because all I heard was upset. Like, all I heard was anger. He was angry at me, and he did that by giving me a silent treatment and just being really rude, abrupt. And I was just begging him, like, what the heck is going on? What's wrong? And he kept saying nothing, but finally he told me that he read my letter, and of course, he was a very entitled individual. Didn't really realize that until later on. But being a pushover instead of standing on business and telling him how I was feeling, because you should be really worried about, why don't you want to be with me? Like, how are you feeling? Why are you worried about this, when instead he's worried about his own self? And I just was telling him I was feeling unconfident in his efforts to look for a job. And then he's, tried to make promises like, no, I really am looking and I'm trying to do this. And at the time, he also was at least trying to hustle with his dad's lawn business. But he couldn't even save his life. And then on top of that, when you are dealing with someone who has an alcohol problem, a marijuana issue, you know what I mean, and you're broke, those two are the main things. And somebody who is a pothead but is like not good with keeping like money, they don't realize how much money they're spending on it. And keep that in mind for later. And yeah, blah blah blah, he promised me that he would be. I stayed around. And so long story short, yeah, he promised me he'd find one. And I am definitely going to skip over a lot of other stuff. There was like a lot of other red flags in there, I'm not going to lie. But I mean, the desperation to get married was so real that I overlooked many red flags. Just like Risa Tisa in her story. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just overlooking stuff. And it's sad when you retell it. You're like, gosh, Lord, what was I thinking? But I'm just skipping a lot of stuff for time's sake. Like, I already told a 40-minute story prior to even the wedding, and so one of the things I want to note is that even while he was doing his lawn service, he never even bought me a $20 ring. And I'm just like, I can't believe this man really thought in his head that all he had to do, I'm not even gonna word it like that, because pretty clearly, people only get away with what you allow them to get away with what you allow them to get away with. But I just can't believe I even allowed him to propose to me without even trying to get some sort of ring. I get you're broke, but literally at Walmart, there are $50 rings where you can present it and say, I'm going to get you a better one. I just wish that I had better standards. But he never even bought me a ring for the wedding. So therefore, I had to go online and buy his and my ring. I did everything with the wedding. I took care of everything. And I was cool with it too, because, I knew that I wanted the wedding and he didn't. And I knew he was broke. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to take care of everything by myself. But something that I didn't like about me taking care of everything by myself was him complaining about it. It's like, sir, you're not even contributing one dime and you're complaining. You know what I mean? And then his mother even was kind of annoying and trying to tell me, hey, get these and get this. Are you going to contribute money, ma'am? And she never did either. Like, it's just like, why are you even, unless you're going to contribute money, keep your opinion. It is his wedding too, but at the same time, you didn't even contribute a ring is what I'm saying. Like, And I kind of wish, and I still did, I want to say aloud, because at the time the wedding was my idea. I was like dragging him through the wedding process, not the marriage. The marriage was his idea, but the wedding was mine. And I did give into a lot of stuff because I'm a compromising person and I like to make people happy. Although he didn't contribute one dime. The only person who contributed something was his dad on that side, and then of course the gifts from his family, but not one dime, not one dime. And I wish I would have expressed myself. If you want to give an opinion, you can definitely go half with me on this stuff. If you can't do that, then I would like to do it my way. At least saying that, you know what I mean? Being real. But I wasn't even that type of person. I thought it was rude back then. But I also realized that I didn't know how to communicate clearly without being over emotional about it. And nowadays, I've learned to not communicate until I'm out of an emotional state, so that someone can understand my point, or I can even understand my point, because sometimes I be so emotional that I'm not thinking straight and getting my point across, right? So anyway, he didn't contribute anything. Wedding day comes around. He barely took even preparing for the wedding serious. But I didn't care. It was all my idea, so I didn't really care. And one of the things I remember about the wedding day was that it wasn't about me and him. And the thing is, I really and maybe it was partially my fault as well, because I didn't make it about just me and him at first with planning it. But when the wedding day came around, I told myself I will not stress out today because this is about me and him. So, he was just doing something else. Then when the end of our, we had like a little party and whatnot at his grandpa's house that he had found that we could rent, and we didn't end up moving in until 3 weeks or a month later or whatever. But we had a little party there, and it felt like it was more so about him than anything. Like, it was not really that much of an enjoyable day for me, but it wasn't a bad day. Like, it was neither. It was really, really hot and sunny. It was really hot and sunny. So I was like, oh, it's a nice day. That means it should be a great marriage, right? So fast forward past the wedding. We stayed with my mom and my sister, which I had been staying with them before, because like I told you, I had an unstable living situation, so I ended up having to move in with my mom and my sister. And so, because my dad, he has a rental property at the house that we lived in and grew up in, and I stayed with them, and we stayed with them, really, and then we had moved into his grandpa's rental property that he actually grew up in. So we went over there, and we spoke to his grandpa. I talked to his grandpa about potentially buying it, and his grandpa basically made it seem like that we were renting to buy, and he was going to take the money and fix it up. What happened with that property is a lot of our fault, a lot of his fault, the grandpa's fault. He would never see it like that, but a lot of, both ends. And I get his point, but I also see where there were some shortcomings, The property was not the best property. It was highly not up to date, from the heating to no central air. They provided us one air unit in the property, but we did have quite a bit of a discount, so of course I'm not complaining. But even with the discount, we had trouble paying for it because, like I said, I was the only one who had a job. And a lot of the utilities were way too high because the grandpa never fixed and made the electricity up to date. the MUD up to date. Sorry, I'm about to speak. The water up to date. So there was a lot of issues that went on with that property, and the bills ended up being like, I don't know, a lot of times like 300 to 400 together for that house. And it was a lot for me to handle because I'm only making, like, I think I was only making $13 an hour. And then I had my car payment, my insurance, because I had to pay some SR 22, I think it's called, and it was extra high. So it was just like too much for me to handle. And then buying groceries for me and a grown ace man, it's like it was just too much. And then he started having his friends and family over the house, eating up our food, and he could barely even afford to spend any money on groceries. Like, he spent $50 or something like that here and there, but it just wasn't enough. And even to this day, he doesn't understand that it just wasn't enough with the amount that I was putting out. It was just a lot. Like, it was just so much stress. And then to put that on top of that, 2 months after moving in and 3 months after getting married, I found out I was pregnant in October of 2016. I was 6 weeks pregnant. And I was happy though. Like, it's funny because I was happy and ecstatic, but I was like, I mostly thought it was going to motivate him to move quicker and do better, but it didn't end up happening that way. I thought that he would step up, because the way that he would speak, it sounded like that he wanted to be the best father that he could be, and that that he was excited to be a dad, and he was gonna go hard. But the only one who ended up going hard was me. And that's when I learned a lesson in someone's intention, or, I don't really know, because, you never know someone's true intention, right? You can only go off of what they tell you. But I've learned the difference between word of mouth, someone's mouth moving, and their actions. And so that's why, like, one of my love languages now is definitely not words of affirmation, because words don't mean much to me, because I was told so much during that time and nothing ever came to pass how the person told me it would come to pass. So it built a lot of distrust for people and their words. And so during the pregnancy, starting in October, actually, like 2 weeks after or so, I found that I was pregnant. I turned out to have hyperemesis, I think, gravidarum. So hyperemesis. Look that up with the gravidarum. So it's basically, and I just looked up the definition so that I can like kind of explain it. It's a severe type of nausea and vomiting during pregnancy. So you basically are nauseous and throwing up all day, all night, with no type of relief. And so this was going on for me until, when did I stop throwing up? My second trimester, a week or two after my second trimester. So whenever that was, 3 months about. And a lot of people end up quitting their jobs and being on bed rest because of it, or staying home. But I couldn't. I did not want to bring a child into this world like super broke, where I could barely afford to feed them or give them childcare. Like, I didn't want to do that. And he just would not step up and get a job and get a job that can take care of us. He wanted to keep like cutting grass for a while, or like, I forgot what else he was doing. Like, basically, he never ended up getting a actual, I don't know, like, he just always tried to hustle and never really, like, got anything that could sustain us, like that we could, we could be okay with. And so I couldn't quit, and at this time, there was even a moment where in November, so 30 days after throwing up every dang day, I tried to drink water one morning because I had to be really careful with how I drink water. If I guzzled it, my stomach would, like, the acid in my stomach, because at this point I'm throwing up stomach acid because I could barely eat. I still would try to eat, though. I would take like little bites, but I would always just throw it up. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy, to be honest. But people were getting on my nerves too because I was miserable. And I mean, I don't know if you heard of people that like, when people have cancer, they give them this medication because when you go through chemo, you're always throwing up and stuff. So that's how bad it was. They had to give me the medication that people from chemo take in order to not be as nauseous and throw stuff up to where it would make me dehydrated. And during that time, this is when I began to dislike my husband at the time. And it never went away, and I tried to make it like go away, but my heart was becoming very cold towards him because when I was sick, he was complaining that I was just on the couch all day when I would come home from work. He was complaining that he's bored and he doesn't do anything. And truth would be told, I was starting to almost hate him. And the reason why is because I'm like, I don't have any energy. I have to still go to work. And our rent wasn't getting paid because I didn't have the money to pay it. It was just so much to handle. It was like so much to handle. And I was resentful of him because when I come home, you're on the couch high as hell. And yes, you're bored because you don't have nothing to do. People who don't have a job are always the ones trying to call people to hang out and do all this other stuff. And it's like, I want to go to bed after work because I've been working all day. And this was a time where I was like up at 7 a.m. So he had to drop me off to work at like 6:45 a.m. I'm up at 5 a.m. every morning where I'm like throwing up throughout the night, praying that I could get some sleep. And he also was very hard on me about him not getting sex. And I tried to really have sex with him as much as I could. But it was painful for me because I'm turned off. Because I'm sick. And who wants someone in their stomach when their stomach is nauseous, if you get what I'm saying? Like, dudes be thinking it's cute. Get in your belly. Nah, dude, not while I am sick. That is not sexy. There's nothing about it for me. And, I'm a woman, so I don't have a penis. So I don't know, really how they feel. But for me, if somebody's not enjoying me, I'm not going to want to have sex with them. So that confused me as well. And throughout the whole pregnancy and beyond, I just felt like a blow up doll to him, like someone that he just, uses to ejaculate on. I really did, because he didn't seem to care if I was pleased or anything, So it was really hard. And when I didn't have sex with him, he just had a whole nasty attitude, and I just could not stand him. My body was becoming way more and more turned off by him. And he would just try to coerce me into it, and when I was just super dry. I didn't feel any pleasure from him. And keep in mind, this actually never changed throughout the whole marriage. There's times where I would fake like I was enjoying it, but I just don't remember ever. I just was really resentful towards him at this time during my whole pregnancy. And it just was really bad. Like, It just really was. I remember one time too that I wanted to know. It was like a month before I had my baby girl. And this was actually Cinco de Mayo, so it was like exactly a month because I had her June 4th. I went out with my friends, right, to the Cinco de Mayo parade in my city. And he had friends over prior to me going. So I didn't even think about inviting him or anything. They came over and I went. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to go with my friends here, you know. And I think it was just last minute, so I really didn't think about it that much. But we were never the type to like always communicate who's coming over or where you're going until it's time to go, you know. So I had told him, man, I'm about to go here. And so when I came back, he was just like disgustingly mad. When I think about it, it makes me uncomfortable. It would just feel like I was being controlled, and I knew it. Like, it just felt like it. And he got upset that I went and said that I was on some single stuff. And I'm like, how the heck am I on some single stuff? Even if I was single, but I'm pregnant. I'm pregnant. I am 8 months pregnant at this point. It is pretty clear that I am pregnant. There ain't no way you think I'm out here looking like it's hot girl summer. Boy, be for real. Like, it was weird. And then you're sitting there with your friend. At any time, you could have even, asked your friend if he wanted to go down there with you. There shouldn't be a problem with me wanting to go. And he's like, oh, that was like a family activity. I'm like, well, we can still go tomorrow. It's really not that big of a deal. And for me, it wasn't that big of a deal. For somebody else, maybe I think it's a big deal. But I feel like he was always with his friends every single day. I hadn't really barely been around mine like that. And we even fell out before. Like, some of my friends and me fell out before. So I really wasn't around them like that, period. And I've been pregnant this whole time. Sick as a dang dog. And by second trimester, I'd just been feeling good. So anyway, that happens, right? That's one thing that I want to know. Also, I remember in the same time period, because we actually had my baby shower. And my dad came up with an idea to have like a male baby shower. And I remember him coming to me after the baby shower saying, after this, I want to do something for myself because everything was just about like you. And I said, what are you talking about? How is a baby shower just about the mother? I mean, of course, it seems like that, but I don't know. Men just maybe think differently. But for me, I'm like, it's not about me or you. It's about the baby, celebrating that we're going to have a life coming, getting all the tools we need to help with the baby. It's not about you. But anyway, he ended up having his own, and he took all the money for that, didn't put any of it towards the baby or anything, which I don't really think I cared as much, although I might have cared a little bit since I mentioned it. But yeah, I thought that was weird too. And it just started to note to me, like, I feel like he was competing with the baby already. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's what it felt like to me. It was quite strange. And so let me think of something else. Oh, another thing I wanted to note, like, it was around the same time, probably in May-ish, probably 2 weeks before I had my child, and I started like preparing for her to come. I was doing a room, and I had my friend let me borrow her shampooer, blah blah blah, and I'm just such an independent person, and it's not really always a good thing. I never know when I should ask for help sometimes and when I should do it myself, because I never want to be a burden or just needy, because I don't want to be supported when I don't get the support that I need. I mean, I don't want to be disappointed when I don't get the support I need. So sometimes that backfires on me. And in this case, it backfired because I was like trying to do a room and get a room together. And so my friend was there, and I had mentioned that they gave us like a, what do you call that? An air condition like unit, and it was like one of those big ones. And I was trying to move it myself, and my friend was like, "Oh, nah, let me help you with it." And if I'm not mistaken, I think I did ask him to move it before, but he just never did. And one thing about me is I really hate repeating myself. I hate repeating myself. Like, this, like, keep in mind, I only had my daughter 5 days before, 5 days prior to, like, I only had my daughter 5 days prior to her due date. So if I'm getting the room together like 2 weeks before I had her, right? I didn't know it was going to be 2 weeks before I had her. This was 3 weeks before the due date. And I've been asking him to move that. And it's like, he's mostly home all the time. Well, he doesn't have any priorities to where he doesn't need to be home, but he wasn't home all the time. He was always doing something else. I really don't know. And so, my friend, a woman, had to move it. And he didn't even try to get up and help. Just looking at us. And I think he was even just smoking on the couch again. I'm just like, at that time, I was really ignoring it at this time because I was just trying not to be as stressed out. Because I was just really fed up because I was always trying to clean and trying to do stuff, but I never really received that much help from him. Like, and then when I would clean, he would go right back and mess up. It was just, it just was a trigger for me because when I clean and somebody goes right behind me and messes up, and doesn't ever clean it again, right? Like, so if he would have cleaned it after he messed up, because I'm telling you, I give people time. I give people a week plus. And they just, like, I try to be patient with people. And when they just act like that they don't have the responsibility to clean up after themselves, it's frustrating. It's very triggering for me. Because they're providing a very chaotic environment with their messiness, And that's the kind of person he was. He never, ever, ever cleaned up after himself. Like, if he missed a trash can, he would never pick it up. And the way I was raised, like, no. We would have got popped upside our head, like smacked across the forehead, like, poke, pick that up, So I didn't understand the way that he was. I didn't get it. And so we're moving this air condition, right? And he doesn't even get up to try to help. I'm bending down to, like, shampoo. And my friend's like, let me get that. Like, she's like, come on, let me help. And honestly, if I do get married again, I really want somebody who is just more attentive and pays attention and willingly does acts of service without me having to ask, to be honest. I know that's like probably a fairy tale, I don't know, but like that's just the type of person I am. So I really want that in a partner. I want two people. I want to be in a relationship where two people are trying to one up each other on doing acts of service and being kind and being nice, and just showing each other that we love each other more than telling each other, And that was one of the things that really made me lose more respect for him. Because I'm like, wow. Or even when I was walking in my pregnancy and I couldn't walk as fast, trying to keep up because I'm usually a fast walker. He was just walking in front of me so quick. I even remember I didn't even notice until one day my brother at the time, he was like, oh, snap. Hold on. Let me slow down for you, Teresa. And I was like, oh, wow. Thank you, bro. And then I'm like, I knew something was like a little bit off in my spirit watching my husband walk fast in front of me and not slowing down for me, not just being courteous to me. Like, that's all I wanted. I mean, I already felt like I was doing everything else. All I wanted was somebody who was courteous to my feelings and like there for me. Like, I felt like I was trying to be there for him, but honestly, I don't think by the end, I could not be there for him mentally and emotionally. I tried, but I just stopped caring about him mentally and emotionally after a while, and it was just my duty after a while. But even sex was just a duty after a while. It was nothing that I was really connected to anymore. And I hope y'all could hear me after that, because I was just holding the mic the wrong way. But anyway, where am I at in the story? So it comes around when it's time to have her, right? I actually remember the day before I had her, I got into an argument with him. Don't really remember what it was. And this man tried to tell me that he thought I was cheating. And I said, that's funny, because I think you're cheating too. And it's crazy that I'm like 9 months pregnant, but you mentioned that you think I'm cheating. Okay. It tells me what kind of woman he thought I was, or he just thinks women are, maybe. But anyways, as soon as I told him, like, that's crazy, because they usually say the person who's always accusing someone of cheating, or like I said, when I left when I was 8 months, oh, you on some single stuff, usually he's the one cheating. Tell me why he dropped it. And that's why I still feel like he did cheat. I probably never know, but I just feel like it, because he was just a hypersexual person from the beginning. I knew it, but at that time I didn't care, because I could keep up with him until, circumstances happen where I'm not interested in sex as much as I used to be, But yeah, we get to when the next day after we had an argument, I left, but I came back the next morning. That argument happened. About, I think 2 days after that, I start going into labor. So I start having contractions about 4 a.m. on June 3rd. Right. And they're not so strong. And I had been looking at like different stories of people going into labor. So I knew that I would have to go when they got stronger. So they start getting stronger, I want to say about... What time did I go to the hospital? I don't know. I think I woke back up about 10 p.m. or something like that and went to the hospital. But they still weren't strong enough. And like my, what do you call that? I wasn't dilated as much. So he drops me off at at the hospital, and tells me that he's going to his mother's house, and he'll be back. This fool never came back. And so I had to call him, because they're like, do you want to stay here or whatever? And I didn't want to stay there because we couldn't eat. And I hadn't ate all day. So about 1 o'clock, so like 3 hours later, he comes back, gets me, we go back to the house. And I tell everybody I'm basically in labor, but I'm going to have to wait at home. So my mom comes over, and my mom was literally my saving grace through it all. And of course, I was in so much pain that I couldn't feel my own emotions, because I'm already in so much pain with the contractions. Contractions are the devil. They definitely are cursed. They're the devil. And so I'm like making noises and stuff. And I do remember that he was like making fun of me. I don't know why he thought at that time that it was funny. That was disgusting, but I was in so much pain I didn't pay as much attention. But my mom was there. I get myself something to eat. Barely could eat it because I'm in so much pain. And we go back to the hospital, and I find out that I'm more dilated, but still not dilated to the point of labor. So I'm waiting. I mean, I'm talking about, we went back to the hospital at probably 5 p.m. And the whole time my mom is by my side. People are coming in and out the hospital. And mind you, at this time, the only people that I wanted to come in there, because they said I can only have a certain amount of people, is my mom, his mom, and him, right? But I let everybody else come in there or whatever. But he was never in there. And secondly, his mom kept inviting people up to the hospital. I never told her to do that. And quite frankly, let me tell you something, man. It is very, very, very not cool to invite whoever you want while you're without telling your spouse, because it's not your body going through it. You could do that after the baby's born. You know what I mean? Where I still think you should discuss it with the mom, because no matter what, it kind of is the mom who is, it's your child too, but you are not, your body and your hoo-ha is not out there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not yours. Okay? But anyway, his mom had kept inviting people. I found that to be a little bit annoying, but whatever. I didn't care as much because honestly, I was in so much pain, I barely paid attention. Man, 10 p.m. goes by. 12 a.m. goes by. And I remember his mom, like, mentioning how she, when is this going to happen? It's like, girl, I was thinking, like, if we had ever had kids, she wasn't going to be at the hospital again because she was annoying. And I was like, and both of them was like sleep and stuff. And I'm in here, can't get sleep. Hungry as all get out. And at this time, they had given me 2 epidurals because I was in so much pain and it was taking so long for my child to... So my child is stubborn. And she was even from the beginning in the womb. Because every time I would have contractions, they're supposed to push the baby down and push the baby's head or their body down so that your area would contract and become more and more open so the head could pass through. Well, every time the contractions happened, she went up. So what happened was my ribs was contracting on her, so she was causing me more pain. But at this time, I barely was feeling it now because I had like 2 epidurals, so I wasn't really feeling pain all throughout my body. But it was still uncomfortable. And we just kept trying different positions. My mom was by my side the whole time. Kivez was out the room a lot of the times, but by the end of the night, he was back in the room. He was asleep. He just was not by my side until it was time to push. Then he came up and was there, I guess. But I kind of did resent him for it because we had took these Lamaze classes for him to be by my side. And so by the time that it was time, and I paid for him and everything, by the time it was time to have a child, he wasn't even by my side. I'm like, what was the point of those classes? My mom had to be there for me. And I was grateful for her so much. So I have my daughter at 5 a.m. So granted, 4 a.m. June 3rd, all the way to June 4th at 5 something in the morning, I finally have her. And I'm holding her, whatever. And I remember something that annoyed me after that was nothing happened, actually. As soon as I had her, they went out and smoked a cigarette or whatever. And I was like, all right, whatever. And so right after that, when they come back in, everybody's talking about leaving after that, right? Because it was already 5 a.m. I understood everybody else wanting to leave. But my mom, she wanted to stay, but her, boyfriend at the time wanted her to leave or whatever, and because he was ready to go, and so she had to leave. Everybody had to leave, and I'm here with this newborn, and I haven't slept in hours, and I was too scared to allow the baby to go to like the nursery because of all the horror stories of people snatching babies. Hey, listen, I was a new parent. I was not really trusting her being anywhere, you know what I'm saying? And I was just tired. I didn't see him again until probably anywhere between 1 and 5 p.m., to be honest with you guys. But everybody started coming in to visit her around like 12 p.m. and later. And it was like, where's your husband? Where's your husband? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, and finally he came in and he didn't stay that long. Then he left again because he had this like movie premiere that he was a part of. And then when he came back from the movie premiere, once again, I barely got sleep at this time. When he came back from the movie premiere, this stupid... Okay. See, when you tell stories, it puts you back in the mindset, but it just really, everything he did at that time, how you treat a woman when they're pregnant is just hurtful, and to even have to relive it is very traumatizing. He came back in from this movie premiere, high as HE double hockey stick. I mean, higher than I remember being, but I think it was because he was drunk too, in the hospital, and the baby just kept crying. I couldn't get sleep. The doctors was coming in and out. And he decided that he wanted to come into the hospital just to go to sleep instead of to help me with the baby. And so I'm like, at this point, I realized at that point, to be honest with you guys, that I think I was on my own. I was like, I'm on my own. This man talked about how he was going to be up with a baby. He was going to, be there with, he could stay up late at night with the baby. And I already knew that that wasn't going to happen. And so, fast forward after that, I remember having a meltdown and a breakdown. And I think it was mostly lack of sleep and realizing that I was doing this on my own. All right, so the day we brought baby girl home. So what I do remember of this day is he was supposed to come to pick us up. And that morning he had called me actually and was telling me how, so he was borrowing his dad's truck because he didn't have a car at the time. And on his dad's truck was a trailer, which they carried like the, lawn service stuff. So the trailer, on the truck had gotten stolen. Someone took it. And so he was major upset about that. And that's one of the reasons why it took him so long to, come and get us. So the trailer was gone. So he took forever to come get us. We finally started going home. So we're driving home, right? And so he turns off on our way home. And I'm like, where are you going? And he also had his gun in the car at the time. I'm like, what are you doing? And he talking about something, he gonna go find the trailer. I mean, when I tell y'all I was flabbergasted, I said, you are not rolling around with our 2-year-old. I mean, not 2-year-old, 2-day-old in the car with a gun in the hood looking for a trailer. And, we stayed in the hood. So it was just a really bad neighborhood. I mean, I always heard gunshots up the street, all this other stuff. So I'm really at this time, you've got to be kidding me. So you're telling me not only am I doing this alone, I also am with somebody who's going to put my child in danger at 2 days old and think more about his pride and stuff being stolen from him that can be replaced than thinking about his own child. I was like, wow, I just could not believe it. And so I just was flabbergasted, to be honest. And it was like, oh no, I was going to have my dad come down here and you drop me off. And I knew he was lying. He just didn't think about it. And I was like, I can't believe he just didn't think about it. What if they shot back at us? Dude, are you stupid? I just didn't understand it. So anyway, that happened and that told me what kind of impulsive person he was. And it was already stuff that told me that. But then even for me, my child comes before all. So I didn't understand his thinking at that time. So anyway, let me move on to the next part of it. Right. Yeah, that's just when I knew I married a man who would put his family in danger. And so one thing I remember throughout my baby girl being a baby is that I was the only one that woke up with her. And at first, I justified it to myself that I had to breastfeed her. But I still should have made him wake up and take responsibility. One day I did try to, but he called me a B and cussed me out and talking about something. Because I told him, I was like, it's your turn to go get her. And he sat there and called me a B or whatever. And we were arguing in front of our baby, really small, tiny baby. I was just like, what the heck, dude? And then he tried to act like he was going to do it now. And I just never woke him up again. Because I'm not trying to get cussed out and called all types of B's just because I told you that it's your turn to go feed the child. And just because you decided to smoke weed and then be high as, sleeping and high as heck. Like, it was just unfair that I had to take care of her all the way through. And we're supposed to be married. Like, to me, it was like he was acting more like a baby daddy than an actual leader of the household. And that's some of the problems that I had with him. And that's when I knew that I don't think I wanted to have another child by him, really, around that time-ish. But as the years went on, me just taking care of her and being the primary one to still, financially responsible, being the one to only be the one to cook and clean. And sometimes when I would make him like cook or clean, I always was met with this like attitude. And I'm the type of person that doesn't like making people uncomfortable. I don't like making people upset. I just want someone to do their part without them feeling like I'm making them burden, but they're putting all the burden on me, and it just got to be so much that our sex life was horrible. Once again, it still was dwindled. I just felt like I was having to pay for all the date nights, yet he was telling me he's bored, he's this, he's that, but he never really helped. So 4 months after we had my daughter is when he decided to get into another shop because he was a tattoo artist. And getting into the other shop, I still never see most of the money. I remember that he did pay for our bills once or twice while in the house, but for the most part, it was always still me. He did try to buy us some groceries here and there, $50 or less, to be real. And it was getting to the point where I was getting so bitter, and it was getting to the point where anything he did probably wouldn't have been good enough for me because it felt like I was doing too much. It started off with me doing too much. And I just was becoming so bitter. I just was not even liking myself or him. To be honest, I was just getting so tired of the situation. So then I started to look for ways to make our marriage better. Because I felt like maybe if I change, he would change, And as I'm growing and growing and growing myself, it was just making me even more bitter that I'm trying to be better, and I never felt like he was trying to be better, and then I started to, as I'm listening to marriages and how they met, how they're going, everything, I realized that we didn't even start this off right. I just kind of was lonely and desperate for somebody, and him too. And when I think about things that we said to each other at the beginning, they were nothing solid, And I also started looking up like narcissistic relationships, CPTSD, childhood trauma, and realized that I was never ready for a marriage, even a relationship. And so therefore I chose based on where I was. So me and my husband at the time were on the same level, of toxicity. God says sin is sin no matter what to God, whatever sin it is. Certain sins are against yourself, certain sins, and I'm gonna be honest with you, there's the seven deadly sins or whatever, but that actually didn't come from God. That came from a Catholicism, to be honest with you. I think it's a priest or what do you call them again? It just came from Catholicism. So the seven deadly sins really actually may not be from God, just so y'all know, but that can be debatable. But sin is sin to God. And that's where I say that toxicity is toxic. Even if you're not manipulative, yet you're insecure, yet you don't know self-love, yet you are using a relationship to replace God's love for yourself, that's still toxicity. So when you operate out of toxicity rather than And when you're operating out of toxicity, whether it be low self-esteem, blah, 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 then you attract people who operate out of that same toxicity, even if it's not in the same way. And 9 times out of 10, you attract what you are. And that is what happened in that situation. I was so desperate to feel good about myself that I thought getting married would make me worth something. And all it did was make me feel even more worthless. If I had waited on God, God would have taken me through a process to shape me, to make me realize that I needed to grow up, that I needed to not be desperate, that I couldn't replace God's love with a man's love, you know? And long story short, the marriage lasted about 2.5 years. I got married July 1st of 2016. I left March 9th of 2019, 4 months shy of like 3 years. I just couldn't take it anymore. And I left kind of messed up. But when I was looking at narcissistic abuse, not to say he is one, but at the moment, everything was matching up. And I know it's overused, but he lacked empathy. I don't think he even liked me. He showed me signs that he was always in competition with me. And I didn't add that in there, but there was just so many signs. Like, he was just very controlling, very manipulative. He used to steal money from me, and I know it's what's mine is yours. But at the same time, when I'm the only one bringing in money, and you're taking from my pocket and you're using it on cigarettes, your habits, like not even anything good. Like, I wasn't even as mad when he took money because it was food, but it was like, you're taking money for your habits. And I didn't sign up to support your habits. And if you can't support your own habits, it might be time to quit. Easier said than done, but sometimes that's just what's got to be done. You know what I mean? And I was just fed up. I was tired. So when I dropped him off at work one day, because at this time we have the car, we only have one car, and we only had one car for like years at this time, for like 2 years. And I leave the apartment that we're at together because I stupidly put him on the lease, but he was my husband. So I was just always trying to be inclusive. I wasn't even, but it ended up backfiring on me. And I left while he was at work, packed all my stuff, left, told him that I left him. And we could talk about what we're going to do with the child later on. And long story short, from then on, he started to harass me, him and his mother. The day I left, his mother calls me and says, "What's going on?" He called me crying and everything. And I'm like, listen, I get it that you're worried about your son, but I think it's something that you need to discuss with him. Because at this time, as much as I'm the one that left, you still have a lot of emotional processing, right? And I'm feeling guilty and bad, and you're calling me. And then because I told her she needs to discuss with her son, well, no, I'm calling you. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I don't want to discuss it with you. Like, you're not my mom. Like, you're my mother-in-law, but you're not my mom. You know what I mean? I don't owe you an explanation or anything. And I didn't say that to her, but I just pretty much told her, I think you need to get your son, get with him. And when she started going off on me, saying that, no, you need to talk to me and all this other stuff, I'm pretty sure I got an attitude with her back. But long story short, she ends up saying, like, well, I'm going to beat your ace when I see you, calls me all types of B's. And so I started going off. When I tell you I was on my way to whoop his mom's butt, I was just fed up. And what you got to understand about this, it is highly disrespectful. I get it. Everybody was like, oh, I'd never do anything like that. Like a lot of people told me. But when you have taken disrespect from his mom for years at this time, 3.5 years of us being together, because we were together a year prior to me leaving. And, so we had been together since 2015. Got married in 2016. And I left by 2019. So she had been saying disrespectful things for 4 years almost. So I was fed up with her. I was tired. And then on top of that, like all the things she would like do with my child, that was another factor. That'd be another story. Toxicity at its best. I really hope that if I do get married again, I can have a good relationship with the mother of my husband, because I don't want that again. We even still have so much toxicity going on now, but that's a whole nother story. And he proceeds to harass me. My family is calling my family. His mother was calling my family, talking about your daughter, to my dad, your daughter's being a B. Like, it was just craziness for years after that. And long story short, my ex actually has 2 more kids now by someone else, and probably the year that he met her was the last time that, actually there's more to it, but I just prefer to keep some of it to myself. But he still was harassing me and still tried. Every time, I bet when they got into an argument, he would still try to like just contact me, and I'm like, dude, leave me alone. Like, just contact me about our child. That's it. I don't want to know nothing else. We're fine right now, but I always have to remember to, for lack of better words, put him in his place. And I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but just create boundaries so he knows that I am not ever going to be interested, ever. And please keep it about the child. Do not use my child as a pawn to stay connected in my life, And you have 2 other kids with someone else who you still go back and forth with. So just leave me out of it. Leave me alone, And we're in a much better place. More so that I just don't allow him to get me out of character as much as I used to. Because, he could flip a switch. And I think that, and his mom too, I think that certain people are miserable, so they try to get you to be miserable with them. And I started to realize that, and I was like to God, God, I know they're going to be them. But while they're being them, I don't want them to bring me down to where they're at. Okay? And so that's why I'm so glad that in 2022, I literally started to get back with God, because I need him in order to deal with toxic people like this. And that's why it's stress for women to wait on God, because everybody's talking about marriage. People don't get married no more. And then you got people like, well, marriage isn't beneficial. It's not beneficial when you're doing it wrong, when you are not connected to the source, when you're just doing it out of trying to make marriage your God and your idol. It's going to fail if there is not a third party in it, which is God. Because even if it's not God, there is going to be another third party in it. And that will be the world telling you what to do, telling you this, telling you that. And right now we got this demonic force going on in the world. And that's what I call these red pill and pink pill type of ways of thinking. Because you got women who are being greedy. Oh, he needs to be rich. And it seems smart. But at the end of the day, they're overlooking key factors. And everybody's not going to get a rich man, or we're all going to be fighting for the same person. Heck, some of these women can't even get rich on their dang own. How you expect to have a rich person when you can't even do it on your own, And, you can disagree. I don't care. But I'm just telling you the truth, that you need God in it. You need God in it. You need God in it. And not just a church going person. You need somebody who fully is fearful of what God can do to them if they do not obey. And I get that God is I'm not even just fearful what can happen to them when they don't obey. Because I know by my own choices, I realize that I make terrible choices. Look who I picked to marry. And it's because I didn't allow myself to go through the process, because I was so impatient and I felt so empty that I didn't really seek God to fill that emptiness. And that's just all I want to say. Just wait on God, because this could be your story or worse. There's so many women that have this story, and what they said is, I was insecure, I was impatient, I was making marriage my idol. And we can't do that. And we got to do better, y'all. And so I just want to kind of end this with a prayer, because this is extremely long. This is going to take me forever to download, but whatever. Lord, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to go through the lessons that I did. Thank you for forgiving me for disobeying you and not waiting on you, not trusting you, not remaining faithful to you. I just pray that the person listening, that you help them remain faithful to you, that you remind them that you have a way for them, that you remind them that you have a plan for them, that you remind them that you will be their guide, that you will fill them up where they feel empty, that you remind them to not make marriage an idol. Thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Well, my throat is kind of itching, and I know that's because I've been talking for way too long, so I'm getting ready to get out of here. You guys like, subscribe. Please share if you can. Deuces.